Well, welcome to World Famous TV, Mr. Washington.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And we'd like to thank you for coming down, and I'd like to thank you for being patient. You know,
okay.
I really appreciate it. And you have a rather unique story that I really want to get into, you know. And even though that your story is unique, it seems to happen every day around urban cities in America. So, but let's get to it. Can you tell the public what's your name and where you from?
Well, yeah, I think I can tell them that. My name is Fulton Leroy Washington. I was born in Louisiana. I was the last person in my family born on a plantation. I'm currently living in Compton.
So that's very intense. You said you was the last relative to be born on a plantation.
Yes. My immediate siblings. I'm the last sibling to be born on a plantation.
What was the name of the plantation?
The Hodge Plantation.
Oh wow, that's very intense. Okay, so now
it was kind of strange. You know, it's you know, the way you asked the question, it made me think of it. I didn't know that, you know, until recently, until I got released from prison. Federal system now requires you to have a birth certificate, or you go to INS, and they got to deport you. You have to sit in there for deportation. They can prove you're a citizen.
Oh wow!
So, you know how the story went. You know, Obama released me.
Well, we was gonna get into it.
Okay, we get.
Well, first I want to let the people know, you know, who you are.
Okay.
You know that, like you said, you came from Louisiana, and you made it to Compton.
Made to Compton. Yeah.
Now, what was the year you made it to Compton?
I actually didn't come to Compton until 1975, but I came to the Los Angeles area in 1955, and we moved to the Nickerson Garden Projects.
So, now this is an honest statement here. 1975. That was just about the end of the Black Panthers, and I mean, well, you know, I'm talking about the last.
Yeah, right in there. Because I remember coming through high school, they was recruiting. Black Panther was doing recruiting in the area. They came to Gardena High. I was solicited several times to become a Black Panther.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, because they were strong in the Nickersons.
Yeah, Nickerson. My family lived in the Nickersons.
Right. So at this time, between 75 and 80, the black on the West Coast. The Black Power movement, the Black Panthers, Rainbow Coalition, all of these different organizations, we know now were at the end of their service because of COINTELPRO had infiltrators to break up these organizations.
To where I understand it, a lot of the groups that people now they call gangs, terrorist organizations, militant organizations, these were organizations of our time that were there to self-police the areas in which we live. You know, when I look back and look over history, I don't see them as being the violent people that they try to portray them to be, for the reason why the FBI had to come in. And I'm not a real politically correct person. I wasn't really into politics. I'm still not really into politics. And I say that because when I look at my life at 65 years old, looking back, the same people that lived in the projects in the 50s, they still live in the projects now.
Yeah, that's true.
So it don't matter whether is a Republican in office or a Democrat in office. The people who stand in the cheese line to get government assistance are still the same people. So nothing changes with politics. So why even be bothered with it if it really don't change much? There's some social things that does change. But for the overall look, a person that's in poverty, not many people have moved past that point. They still stand in the same lines, living in the same areas, and basically living, even though they make more money now than what they did, but they still can't afford to change lanes.
Right.
And that's what life to me is about, is that, you know, when I was blessed to be able to get a different type of experience, from living in the Nickerson Gardens, Imperial Courts, and the surrounding areas where all of my relatives live, to move to Gardena, California, which was in 1965 after the first riot. It exposed me to something different that changed my thought pattern, it changed my behavior through exposure. And I became a very talented person in construction, later using all of that
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So you come from Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
you make it to Nickerson Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
From Nickerson Gardens, you move to Gardena. When you get to Gardena, see, I was just setting the timepiece because the 75 to the 1980s was the demise of the black family.
Yeah.
So right about the time when you started to use your talent, be a black business owner, that's what I want to talk about now.
Okay.
It was tough out there. Gangbanging was just starting.
Yeah.
They went from bumper jacks to shooting.
you remember bumper jacks? Baseball bats and bumper jacks? Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, explain how it was this time, because out of all the different communities in Los Angeles and the urban cities, the majority of the young folk like yourself that was coming out in the 80s were either gangbanging, stealing cars, breaking into homes, or robbing people instead of going to school and making something of themselves. So can you explain a little bit of how you made it out?
That era. Let's go back, because now you make my mind. I go back in time. I go back to, say, 1970, 1971. Like I said before, we had a lot. They had a lot of organizations: Beach Boy, Brims, Black Panthers. Everybody after 1965, everybody black in Southern California was Bloods. You see, because we was all blood brothers, right? And that was
a saying everybody would say, young blood.
Young blood, yeah.
Right.
Everybody was blood brothers. We was all black. We all migrated to California from Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, everywhere. And everybody was welcome. Back in those days, there was we really didn't have to care about locking the doors or none of that. And if you see a person coming in from out of town and you see them, you would welcome them into your home. You'd get a bath and get a good hot meal because they've been on that road. That's how I was raised up, watching my mom and my pops to do that. Then moving from in 1965 to Gardena, what we call now the Twilight Zone. There was a lot of exposure. I was exposed to different cultures, to be able to raise around Europeans and Asian and Hispanic, to go to their homes and eat and to play with them and all of that. It created a different type of thinking. And then later in the last part, 11th, 12th grade, they had the episode when they was taking leather coats, waistline leather coats and shoes. But I think one of the things, because
that's very important how you said that.
Well, I'm
waistline.
Yeah, waistline
leather coats.
Yeah, we had Maxis
and brims.
And I was one that I like to dress. I like to dress nice. I do, and I had to go back. I'm walking my way back through this thing, and so I remember everybody was afraid to wear their clothes to school for fear that somebody was going to take it. But I have to say this right here, and this is now having nothing. A lot of time people try to read the fight game as a violent game. When in that area it wasn't. Boxing was universal as basketball is now. They had boxing at all the schools. All the gyms, even the prisons had boxing rings in the prison, and people come home from prison and go straight, and that was their hustle. They come home from prison, they become boxers and so forth on. Even Don King, he did his time in prison and came out and changed the boxing world. But because of that, and because of Ken Norton, which he lived in the Twilight Zone as well, and before he became pro, he opened up, we had team posts. And after school homes that people would come and hang out while you wait for your parents to get home. And he taught us how to box, how to fight. And then we was taking judo and karate. So by the time this thing with the Crips and the Bloods came, we were in an era, or at least I was, in my neighborhood, we knew how to fight. So we had a few fights at the school. They came and they tried to take my shoes one day, and I gave them one. They thought they surrounded me. I took it off and said, "You had that one." I said, but you got to take the other one. He rushed down to get it. I socked him, and then we started it up. So then, police came, they ran, and we fought like 3 times that day. And then come to find out, these were people from the project, from Nixon Gardens. Oh, wow. I didn't know. But then they, as they running, they said, you better not come to where I'm at. I'm like, well, where you at? I'm in the project. Which one? The Nicholson. Oh, I hurried up and went back home. You know what I'm saying? So then when I go home, and I've come through that, I hadn't seen a lot of the people I went to school with in a long time, and they like, Leroy, what are you doing over here? I said, man, there's some dude over here named Woo Woo, he trying to get down. And like, what? And the word went around, and we all met up, and they like, when he came, they like, because he came with a crowd of people. The word got to him that the dude he had got into it. I didn't tell him. I told the people, say, whoever the dude was that came to the school, tell him I'm here, I'm trying to sing. Mm-hmm. And so the word got around, he came about 30 or 40 dudes deep. And when we met in the parking lot, I'm ready to get down. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be just like we finna go one-on-one on the basketball court. I ain't mad at him. It's like, I want to see if you can knock me down. It's just, ain't no knock down, stomp out, or nothing like that. We used to get, if you drop a person 3 times, you won. Right. If you could drop him 3 times, you won. So, when he came and everybody came and they was like, he pointed, yeah, that's him. They like, at the same time when he telling them it's me, they saying, what are you doing over here, man? I'm trying to see dude. They like, dude, you better not start fighting with him, man. You can't, that's what he do. I fought all the way coming up. So that's what happened with me, is that I didn't join a gang because I had family on both sides. I had half of my family was living in areas where they was claiming Crip territory, and the other half lived in an area where there was blood. And I refused. And the thing is, my family and my friendship and my loyalty was strong enough to where even if you was a blood and you did something to me, then you have to fight all the rest of your bloods because it was my family or my friends, in the same way on the Crips. And so it's pretty much coming up through that era is that I was respected on both sides. I'm not a gangbanger. I don't join into the black on black violence, right? But if you attack me or use me as a guise to get to somebody else, as a man, I'm gonna stand with the person I'm with. Mm-hmm. And then you're gonna have to see me on that level. And it kind of went like that through that and through prison. People ask, how did you do it in prison? It's the same way. I'm not a Crip, I'm not a blood, and I ain't no coward, so what you trying to do? Right. Because if you got something personal against me, then, you do that. But that's how that went,
Okay, so you make it out of high school. Yeah. Now, in high school, back in that time, they had shop.
Oh, yeah.
So, when you got out of high school, you started in construction, right?
I started construction before.
Oh, before?
I actually started in construction at 14 years old.
At 14? Oh, wow.
Yeah. At 11 years old, I worked at Gray's Auto Wrecking, taking cars apart.
At 11?
And then I was welding. I had my own little welding machine, trying to weld and make stuff. I like making stuff.
That's huge.
Yeah. We ain't gonna go too deep into that, though.
Yeah, that's huge.
We ain't gonna go too deep into that, because that's part of the movie.
That's right.
When we walk down through there into the part of the series in the movie that's coming out, it'll cover a lot of that. It's a lot of some real deep and interesting things in there, to where when people look at my artwork today and they like, well, wow, man, how do it look so real? Well, when you go back in history and realize that I come from an era, right, that when we went to Gardena High School, we had home economics, and I learned how to make shirts. I sew my own shirts. I know how to make clothes, so when I paint something, I could paint it every piece of the pattern, because I did pattern making. I became a welder. I was a fabricator. I worked with sheet metal. I worked with iron. I worked with concrete. I worked with blocks. So when I make, even at Centennial, I went to Centennial as well. Mm-hmm. And at Centennial taught me how to make shoes. I took shoemaking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Shoes too.
Yeah. So even when I was in prison and
before prison, you was in LA County, you was famous for working with bars, right? Yeah,
in the county of Los Angeles, and all the way down to San Diego, San Bernardino County, Las Vegas.
Now, what years was that between?
I actually started making bars when I was.
No, we're talking about gates.
Okay, the bars,
homes,
gates, and center block walls and stuff. I'm trying to think back. I was going to Gardena. It had to be like 1970, I think it was. I was actually doing hydraulic and pneumatic systems in cars. I was putting hydraulics and making the cylinders. See, back in the day when I was in high school, they used to let me use a lathe machine, and I would make my own cylinders. And but I remember after high school, which was in probably like 1972, I think that summer I ended up working at a guy's shop, Alex, an Indian Mexican guy. I worked at his shop as a welder, and that's when I made my first bar. A guy came in and asked me, could I weld a couple of pieces of metal into like a tic-tac-toe thing? To me, that's what I saw in my mind. It's like, it ain't nothing. I welded together. Then he wanted to bolt it to his house. So I created a little tab and welded some big washers. And, we put it on the house. And I think he gave me $15 to do that. And it was such a quick $15. I mean, when I'm up in the car taking the transmission out and all that for $25 or $30, then you just give me a couple of pieces of metal and I'll lay it down on the ground and make a square out of it. And then after I did the one because somebody had broken his house and he just wanted him to come in, and then I ended up doing this whole house. Then I did his neighbor's house, and from there it just started growing. The work was accurate, it was neat, it was clean, it was well painted. Well, he painted his himself. The other people wanted me to paint it. Alex let me use this shop over in the corner to do these. When they come in, it wasn't coming in like every day, but that little block on 105th and Central, the people on that block was having burglaries, and I started making these window guards. I wasn't making doors yet. I was just doing window guards. And the word got around. Hey, that little young kid, he can get it, So and I started learning construction and learning where the studs was at, because sometimes we would make them and you try to put them on, and the screw didn't screw into nothing. But I was making what they said make. Once I understood what was inside the wall that I couldn't see, then I started to fabricate it into the code, the city code for how a wall was supposed to be built.
Right.
And that grew. It grew up to, let's say from the 70s. Okay, before I bought the house in 75, I had been making the bars for years at Alley Shop for about 3 or 4 years before that. So like 1970, 71, I'm making bars. I buy my house, my second house, and I started making them there. And from that, it went from having like 2 or 3 helpers up to 60 employees.
So that's amazing.
And I was being called from state to state. People hear about it, and I did my auntie's house in Nevada, and then people would call me. I'd go to Nevada 2 or 3 times a year. Then I'd go down to Arizona. I ended up going to New York and do some in New York. And I had an artistic flair about my work. I wasn't doing the average. I had got a long way away from just a square tic-tac-toe. I wanted to have curves, and I really admired Philadelphia, the ironworks in Philadelphia, a lot of the old cemetery work. You go to cemeteries, I would study it, try to figure out how did they forge it. And I took forging at school as well. That was at Perry Junior High School in the 8th grade. We did forging, and I added on to that at Gardena High School as well. Learn how to just use heat and pressure to put metals together, change the shapes. She got my mind thinking back, way back.
I mean, well, it's like you letting the world know.
Yeah.
Now you're very popular, like you said, 60 employees.
Yeah.
So now at this time you're in Compton?
Yeah, I'm in Compton at that time.
60 employees, so that means the business is flourishing.
Business, in the 80s, everybody was living in fear. They were living in fear that somebody's going to take their personal property, which meant that putting in perimeter fencing and putting in security guards on the bars on the window and security doors was a big thing. That was really, really big. And back in the day, you think about what a person make now and what wages was back then, and I never really considered that because, coming out of high school, I worked at the shipyard, taking submarines apart, and that's really was one of my big educational growth. When you take something apart, it teaches you. It taught me to take it apart, how to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but taking submarines, that's not a small task.
No, it's not, and it's something that it gives you patience. You learn patience in that. You learn that, like how the old saying go, the Rome wasn't built in a day. Mm-hmm. So when you have something real big, you know, how do you swallow something that big? You do it one bite at a time. Yeah, that's so right. You just give me a piece of it, you know, give me, and my thing was I worked in the non-ferrous department, so my thing was to go inside and find all the precious metals. Anything that the magnet didn't stick to belonged to me. So I had to go find that, you know. So I start removing the steel, looking for Babbitt, looking for the lead, looking for the gold, the silver, the titanium, the brass, the copper, nickel, the monel, and you have to identify all these different metals and separate them. And I became one of the best. Okay, so now
you're on top of your game. There's nothing but expansion for you. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, because you're employing 60 people. I mean, you know, and they call them jobless communities. Yeah, you were employing a lot of people.
Let me explain how some of that happened. Some of that happened where I think I was 20. I had bought the Leo Rules Oldsmobile. They had an Oldsmobile dealership next to Bank of America. And I went in with some older guys. I was young. I was like 21 or 22 years old. They was like 25 up to about 40. And 5 of us went together. And we bought was building the auto malls back then. And so everybody was leaving Long Beach Boulevard, all the car lots and car dealerships. So we bought one and we turned it into a fabrication yard to do ironwork. I was doing ironwork out of my backyard. And when we bought that place, that had to be like 1970 something, 78. Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably 77 or 78. We bought that place. And working there, the first year and a half, work got really slow. And didn't know how we was going to keep the doors open or whatever. And we had a shop called A1 One Stop. And we did anything you wanted to do to cars. Remember before I had said when I was at Gardena High, I was working on cars and building hydraulic systems then. So I had opened up like this little shop to put in hydraulics. And I was doing my ironwork there. Work got slow. A guy came by, not knowing he's from the school board, watching me work with my guys. And he's like, man, you handle the guys real well. You know, you ever thought about teaching? Because I'm teaching them. I'm showing them what I know about painting, about metal preparations and so forth on. And I was like, no. And I messed around and signed the contract, man. They had me stuck as a school teacher for a vocational company for 2 years. And during that time, I realized after training them and learning how to go out into the community, develop jobs for the students once they graduate, that I also took that opportunity to hire them.
Wow.
So.
And you get to pick the best ones.
Well, yeah, exactly. Most of the time, I couldn't afford to pay what Todd Shipyard paid, and my students were leaving making more money than me. Mm. That's one of the reasons why I quit being a teacher. I think teachers get treated so unfair that how is it you're qualified and you can do the work and you train somebody who's just starting out and you got 15, 20 years of experience and they making more money than you starting out.
Yeah, that
it don't make sense. It kind of, I have my shop running, so what I would do, I benefited from that is I would use my shop as field trips for the class. Mm. So after I teach you how to weld, being a welder was not enough. You have to know how to make something. So then I would give them that work experience about, okay, we're going to go 2 days a week in the field. We're going to actually do some physical work. And I got crews working at the shop while I'm teaching school. Mm-hmm. But then I come in with the brute muscle and all of that. And the ones that you watch them, if they really can work and they really want to work, then you hire them. If they don't, you let them go. And some of them went to Todd Shipyard, some of them went to the Navy Shipyard. Like I say, through filtering through them, I ended up with about 60 employees between the school and there. And that put my business doing really, really good. We did good. We did good for years.
So now, you're known by the Unified School District, by the city, and the state. You're doing work.
Yeah, I was doing work for the city, state. I was working on the 105 freeway project. Mm-hmm. I could do anything.
So now, at this time, the county of Los Angeles took you away from this. Can you tell me what happened?
Yeah, I went to prison. You know, being young, being wild, when I was younger, I ended up going to prison in the 80s. And I kind of pled guilty to everything you said I did, whether I was guilty or not, just to consolidate it into a single package. And let's go and get this over with. So that's what I did. I pled guilty to everything. We went before the judge. The judge guaranteed me that if I was to plead guilty to stuff, that I would do no more than 18 months on a 3-year sentence.
18 months. 18
months. So I calculated it out and said, okay, the shop can run for 18 months. We can do this. This will work. Let me just get things ready. My father was a foreman. I had 3 foremen. My brother Pee Wee, he was in charge of demolition. My father was in charge of manufacturing. Michael Mack was the foreman. He was in charge of installations and repair work. So I figured they can run it for 18 months, you know. So just before the time came, they wanted me to go in. I told I can't do it, man. I can't do no time right now. The judge, well, why not, Mr. Washington? I say, well, because I'm working on the freeway. You know, I'm drawing the blueprints for the 105 freeway. We didn't have a 105 freeway back then. But
you was drawing the blueprints?
Yeah, I had the blueprints. I was doing blueprints and stuff for the overpath all the way through Paramount. And thank God they stood up in the Caltrans test. You know, they sent one of their representatives down and said, no, you know, we got him. I don't know what it is you saying he got, but it ain't about money because he got that and so forth on. And so the judge said, okay, but when can you do it? I said, I don't know, maybe about a year or so. So they said, all right, we'll come back and come on in and do your time. 6 days before I was supposed to do the time, they planted some drugs in the house and they raided the house and arrested me and took me to the house and put me in jail with no bail and gave me 5 years on the deal I said for 18 months. So I ended up doing that. That's just another part. We probably even shouldn't be in there. This all should be coming out in the movie.
Oh wow!
But yeah, it was a lot of stuff happened, man. I mean, this thing right here, when you look back at it, and everything. Listen, everything is based on perspective. You know, a lot of it's based on perspective because when you sit, this is from my perspective. Now, law enforcement might have another totally different perspective. You know, and not saying that everything that they may. Their perspective, not saying anything is wrong with their perspective, because every man is right in his own way and he have a right and he probably could justify why he believed what he believed. But everything that you see is not the truth. It's like I did 21 years in prison and just coming home now for a crime I didn't commit. Now, even though we know and we've turned over to them that, you know, we know who did the crime, and he works for one of your law enforcement, you can give him a check, $50,000 a year. We know that. They still won't admit it. They prefer to let the lies stay the truth for the record until we force their hand. And we're working on that.
So what you're saying is, you know, you had Lee Baca. He was running in sheriffs.
Yeah, Lee Baca was.
He got busted for doing dirty work.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
and he's on his way to jail.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, you exposed Dirty Cop with evidence, and they still didn't.
Yeah, they still wouldn't overturn. They wouldn't. They
still didn't want to accept it.
Yeah, they didn't want to.
Yeah, we don't want to see that. Our guys are clean. Yeah. They can never do any wrong.
Yeah.
But yet, your story is unique, and it happens every day in urban cities in North America.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many
batteries getting low
on him. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so
how many innocent people is in prison? You know, a lot of people is in prison out of fear. They innocent, but they plead guilty, looking for the deal.
Right.
See, same thing I did before. See, this is the way we're trapped. You know. Can I just change the flow for just a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think it's relevant right now. I know when I came in, I had brought you a gift, and I want to give that to you. This is we hold this up for the camera. This is a wash wear T-shirt. Since mine is facing right toward me, right?
Yeah.
So that's the logo. This is the clothesline that carries a lot of my artwork on it. Mm-hmm. But this is right here. This is the part that's important. See?
Oh, I love it.
That says reading will seriously damage your ignorance. And so I want to give this to you, brother.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so now let's get into it.
So now I want to go right back to where we were just left off. Is that a lot of people is in prison, they living in fear. Mm-hmm. Because in a lot of ignorance that they didn't read or quite understand the law or the things that they were pleading guilty to.
Right.
You know? And that's one of the reasons why I produce and I stand behind this shirt as one of my most popular, because the laws as we thought they were, that's not the way the law operate. Mm-hmm. And what's really surprising is that in 2002, they did the Patriot Act, a couple of 1,500 pages or so, and then it was modified in 2004, I think it was, or 2005. And those are the laws that we actually govern under, even though they're not using them. And most people don't even know. They're still thinking of the 1950-60 law. But that's what the society is looking at. But we're actually living up under the Patriot Act. And nobody read it.
Well, you know, they've been protesting that for a while. They didn't want to pass the Patriot Act, especially the Republicans. It was like we're giving up too much freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely correct. So look, so now you're locked up. It's a cold situation, right? Mm-hmm. You're mad, you're angry at the world, especially at the police system.
Mm-hmm. No, I wasn't.
Well, I mean, you know, you have some animosity because they put you here and you were here wrongly.
Yeah, I'm confused.
But you take your anger and aggression and then you put it into artwork.
Yeah, I put it in art.
How'd that all start about? And can you tell us about your first painting? You know, tell us, how did that start?
Well, let's go before the first painting because that's a result of how it started. Mm-hmm. It started in the courtroom. You know, OJ case was ending. Professor Karen Smith, working for CNN News. She was the lady who stood out there in front of the Santa Monica court every evening, and she would give the legal analysis of the OJ case, what happened in court today. She took my case pro bono after I had got convicted. Mm-hmm. And through one of our conversations, she asked me I was drawing envelopes, and letterheads for people in the system. And she asked me to draw a person that I work with when the government said I was somewhere else. And I had never tried to draw a person from memory without somebody being in front of me, and I made that attempt. I drew a sketch. I found a person who had a head shape similar to the guy. I drew him, and then I modified him and added the features that represented the person that I work with. I didn't know no other way to find that person. But I turned that over to her, and she published it and found him through the sketch, and then brought him to court.
Oh, wow.
And that time was a very emotional time for me. I broke down in tears in the courtroom to hear them say in English and in Spanish, because some of the people that came in didn't even speak English. But I had already told my attorney, and the marshals had overheard me tell them. When the people, I seen them, I had to saw him for like a year or so. And I say, hey, that's a Mexican guy. He was driving the tractor. He did this and that and that. And then, and that's his boss. And, I'm pointing the people out to her. Mm-hmm. But the marshals, they had me up under this high security, high risk thing where they standing right over me. They overheard it. And then when the people came in and they actually called them up, the prosecutor called them up to testify, they had to also bring an interpreter because they didn't speak English. And then the interpreter said the exact same words that I said. The Mexican guys said that it was only two black guys on the job, the one that was the boss and one that had the dreadlock. I was the boss. So I'm telling them what to, telling everybody what to do, and it caused a big water main break where the tractor pulled the water pipes out of the ground, and they just ran for it took us hours to dig down, find it, shut the water off, and then had to go back and forth to the store. As a welder and like a solder, they couldn't get couldn't put the pipe back together. So I stopped doing what I was doing to go and actually solder the pipes and stuff back together. And but they came and they testified to everything I had told them, and I really thought I was over with. I was going home, and I just broke down. And I thank God for the ability to be able to use eye-hand coordination to look at something, remember it, and then turn around and draw it. And I never stopped. That was my promise to God that day, that I would continue to exercise that talent, and I would share it. So I started teaching art and doing art. And after they went ahead on to send me to prison, they didn't overturn my conviction with that testimony. And then this picture here, Why Us, became the very first painting that I did. And because it was so political back then, and I was up under a lot of pressure in prison about being innocent and being in a federal prison was almost like a pork chop in a lion's den. People felt like that you wasn't one of them. You're not a convict. You ain't committed no crime. We didn't kill people and did whatever. And you run around talking about you innocent. Right. And it became physical. It became a physical challenge. But again, I'm not a coward. So I for one thing, I didn't have a reverse. Yeah. I didn't have no reverse. And. So we made it through that. But that was my first attempt of painting in oil paint. This painting called Why Us. And I was touched by that. The movie Armistead had came out. I carried that little picture around, a little black and white picture about that big, for over a year. From 1997 to 1998, when I finally got me a seat to paint. And I didn't have colors. I didn't know how to make skin colors. I just had just 2 or 3 tubes, and I painted that out of that. And that's how I started. I drew a picture for my attorney. They found the people, and from there, I continued to practice. When I got to the penitentiary and was able to get a seat, and I traded a couple of drawings for paintbrushes and oil paint, and then I went in there and tried my hand at it. And
so, how many years were you locked up?
21.
So in 21 years, how many paintings do you think you did?
I did over 1,000.
Over 1,000 paintings?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could actually paint. I have these super detailed paintings. Probably, I guess, for the camera, I probably can show. This is the Juxtapost magazine of June of 2018. And they did they featured me in this magazine, and they have paintings like this one. This is the Emancipation Proclamation. I redid the painting where Abraham Lincoln divided the territories for the slaves. And I took all of the generals and stuff out, and I put my family and my lawyers and the prison guards and the Obama administration in. Mm-hmm. So that over there is the first. This is the last. You have others. These super detailed paintings like this. These are not 1-day paintings. This type of stuff here takes months to paint. But in between painting one of these, I might do 30 or 40, maybe 50 of something else. Mm-hmm. These are pretty large paintings as well too. So when I teach class, I teach people how to observe, see, and how to render objects. I can paint like, say, a flower in a vase or a goldfish in a vase. I can do it in a couple of hours.
That's really good.
Yeah, I can just...
Because a lot of people can't even draw water. They don't know
Water's easy. Hey, everybody afraid to do water, And the funny thing about water, everybody want to paint it blue. And water is clear. Water don't have a color.
Right.
So you don't have to paint anything, just paint everything that ain't, just act like ain't no water there. Same with glass, If you want to paint a glass, just paint whatever's there and then just paint the glass in front of it. Just how to like
very
it,
difficult.
man. For
But
some
see, you're
people,
an artist.
yeah. For some
You're
people,
an artist.
yeah.
Okay, so now you're doing all this paint, and your paint's phenomenal. Your paintings are phenomenal. The artwork is amazing. The creative ability that you have and you express on canvas is different from every other artist that's out there. So, like when I was growing up, the only artist I knew was Bob Ross.
Yeah, I seen him too.
Yeah, so I watched him all the time.
I was inspired. I actually was inspired by Bob Ross when I was in Leavenworth, and they had a projector there. They had like a VHS, the VHS tapes, and they had some Bob Ross tapes, and I watched every one that they had. In my spare time, I would come in if we couldn't paint, or even while I'm painting, I would put it on, and I would try. But I just never could afford during those times to use as much paint as he used.
Yes.
My paint, I had to pinch mine off and spread it out, and that's why my paintings come out so smooth, because I never could afford to pile it on, and I've just never been a wasteful person too. I ain't gonna say I couldn't afford it, because at one time it was pretty good in there, but I'm not a wasteful person.
Right.
So, and I try to teach people when I teach art that it's not about how much paint you put on, it's what you do with the paint that you put on. It's almost like living a life. It's not about where God placed you in the planet or in as a living being. It's not about where you're at, it's what you do with the time that you have.
Right.
So me being in prison didn't stop me from being creative, didn't stop me from being passionate, didn't stop me from being supportive. It didn't, like you said about being angry or mad, I'm upset, but I'm not mad. And I'm just making the best of the day, because when you wake up and you're thankful to be alive, the condition in which you're in is something to be thankful for too. And if you find yourself thankful for conditions that seem hard, then you can find out why and what you're going to learn from it.
Right.
I asked God at one time, Lord, I had a pretty good thing going. I had employees be making anywhere from $4,500 to $5,000 a day on the average. We building stuff all over the city. We building St. Francis Hospital, 105 freeway. We're doing residential and commercial work. Why did you put me in jail for 2 life sentences? He said, look around. And when I did, I saw people living in fear. So my life not being mad, not being afraid, gave a lot of people hope. And a lot of people are gonna be watching this what do you call this? A blog?
Podcast.
Okay, a podcast. They're gonna watch this podcast, they're gonna say that's Mr. Washington right there. A lot of them, when they had problems with the same thing we was talking about before, with gangs and different things, and a lot of people, you can't help inside the system that they had these geographical boundaries that you are boxed in.
Yeah. But
how you live in that box is your own choice.
Right.
I can't help that I'm from California, and I'm not going to go and try to play like if the yard is more people from the East Coast, I'm going to not try to act like I'm not from the West Coast. We don't get down like that.
Right.
So you can't choose where they put you at. You can't choose that you black. You can't choose that you're from the West Coast, but you can choose how you act while you black.
Right.
You can choose how you act from the West Coast.
Right.
And those things right there that you have control over, I exercise control over that.
Okay, so now you said your case was picked up pro bono.
Yeah.
So now you've done all this time, all of this artwork, and you finally get the message that they're looking at your case and you might be set free.
No, I never got that message.
Never got that message?
No. I filed a motion. I had a motion pending in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Then the Obama administration in 2013 came out with the Clemency Project. Now, before the Clemency Project, Weldon Angelos, a friend of mine, he was helping me already with, it's like playing a game of chess. You right here and you know what your next move, you have to look for what your next move is gonna be, or your possibility of moves. I've done every kind of appeal that they have in the system. And I'm down to only a few choices left. File a 2241 and go to the president if this one in here don't make it. So when the Clemency Project come out and my attorney say, hey, look, I think this is a good thing, you should look into it, and we start to pursue that, Weldon and I had already put together a clemency petition. We had already been working on that, so it kind of like it turned on a light. You know, we was proactive. We had already considered that this was the next move, and then Obama administration come, and we put in I submitted the stuff, and we get an attorney is appointed to me. And we start down that road, but at no time did ever anything come to say you're gonna go home. The reason why is because they have a set of precise questions that they have to have answers to, and two of the questions I couldn't answer. I couldn't answer the question. There's nothing I can say. They want to know your word of remorse. I had no remorse. For what? That's what actually. If I read the question, I say remorse for what? You know, for the crime that you committed. I ain't committed no crime.
Right.
So how can I have remorse?
Right.
So I tell the attorney, look, we have a problem right here. I can't. There's nothing I can say for that. Well, you have to say something. You have to have a remorseful statement, and you have to show rehabilitation. Rehabilitated from what?
Especially if I didn't commit a crime.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't changed my behavior. You can see it from day one. Back, I came in here in 1997. In 1997, I made it into the, I think it was 97 or 98. I think it was 1998. In 1998, not even a year in prison, I'm on the front page of the newspaper. First year. I done won the art thing.
The art contest?
Yeah, I done won it.
First year?
First year.
Wow.
I actually won the art contest on Cinco de Mayo Day of 1996 at MDCLA with the pencil. I didn't know how to paint, but I could draw. And I draw, and I took first and second place.
First and second.
I took first and second place. It turned into a riot because they said that no blacks could outdraw no blacks could outdraw the Mexicans. And I didn't want to get in. I don't like competition. I'm not a competitive type person. I'm only a defender, you know. And so I had to. They put me in a position where I had to defend, you know. And I told them, I said, man, you don't want to do that, man, for real. You know, don't take nationality and put that in the middle of a physical thing, a learned skill. Like I said, and you know, I said, all right, man, okay. You know, because now you're raising your voice up at me, and you know.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand. So I got out, and I picked the pencil up, and I smashed, and I took first and second place, workmanship and creativity, and I took both. And with that, I got a picture, and nobody else got pictures. And I got a lot of art supplies, and I started to play with colors. Stepped the whole game up, everything elevated. And then they killed the officer in Lomport prison.
Oh, wow.
Green. And because I had won the art contest, the warden solicited me, you know, on the down low, man, will you help us out? We want to just send a card to the family and this and that and that. So I did 3 cards, and they told me if I did it, that I could keep all the materials, you know.
Oh, that was a good deal.
Yeah, it was a fair deal. I went, you know, they called me out, and then I come back, and they gave them a list of what I needed, and you know what they wanted, and the sizes, and I created, you know, nice pieces. And then I never known that I was going to end up in that prison. Wow. You know, the last picture I painted, the Emancipation Proclamation, was painted at Lompoc, but that's how the whole career, that's how it all started, though.
Wow.
It started with an attorney asking me to draw a person from memory. And
an envelope.
Yeah, she seen the envelope and some cards I did, asked me to do a drawing. I drew. They found the people from the sketch. That sketch became part of my court documents. She added it to the court documents. The people came in and testified and explained to put on record what my whereabouts was when you said I was 60 or 80 miles away buying chemicals. And that's how my art career started. And I thank God for it. I mean, I look around, you know, and then when Obama won, you know, we come here with Bob White, you know, I hope he see this, Bob, and give me a holler. And come get your picture.
So now, when did you find out you were going to be set free?
Actually, we have been waiting for about 2 years, you know, from the time we filed this petition. We started in 2013. I went through a couple of lawyers. And the attorney that's painted in the picture, he asked, first of all, when I decided to do this, it came as a vision, and I wrote letters to Obama and to his administration, asking them for pictures and permission to paint them into one of my creations.
So you wrote the White House?
I wrote them, yeah.
Okay.
I wrote them and asked for permission. Some of the people said yes and sent me pictures back. Some of them said no, that they didn't want to be in no prison art, and so I didn't include them. And some of the people never answered. For the ones that didn't answer, I wrote them several letters, follow-up letters, and said that, in the second or third letter, that if I don't get a response from you, then I'll take that as a yes, and I'll find a picture of you public. I'll take it as a yes that you don't mind for me to find a public picture and just put you in. But if you say no, I won't include you.
Oh, okay.
And so they didn't respond. I gave them 30 days or 45 days. They didn't respond. So a couple of people, I just had to just go online. I had to have a prison guards to go online and get me the pictures I needed. I had the support of the institution when I created these pieces too.
So not only are you getting released, but the same people that you're drawing has something to do with your release, right?
Yes, everybody's in the picture Emancipation Proclamation, I felt, and everybody who I wanted to be in it, because this was another attempt. My pictures and my paintings express my journey and what I was going through at a specific time in my life, what I was actually trading my life for, right? I had spent a significant amount of time, years, working on a petition to go before the President of the United States. That's what I traded my life for during these years from 2012 up to 2016. So I put 4 years into this. I took the whole 4 years and crushed it into a painting. And my attorney asked, would I finish with the painting? How was it coming? When he asked how was it coming, I said, it's done. I'm done with it. I ain't gonna. I could keep going, but I just stopped because I need to make some money or whatever for the lawyers or whatever. And so I started on another project, and I just wrapped it up and signed it. He asked for a picture of it, and I called my family and told them to give him a copy of the picture, and they did. He took that to the White House with him. He said, I'm going to D.C. in another two or 3 weeks. I'd like to take a picture with me of it. And he did, and that picture sparked what he called a wildfire. And next thing I know, like 3 weeks later, after that, it was about 3 weeks, they called me on the phone and told me to go home. So I'm just working on the yard, I'm doing my pull-ups, and they calling my name on the loudspeaker, and I'm like, man, I ain't got time to be messing with them people, man. Come on, man, do your set, man. Nah, watch that, man. They keep calling you, man. You need to go see. Man, I'm not been bothered with them people, man. I ain't where I'm gonna go.
Right.
Whenever I get in, I do the same thing every day, man. They know what time I be in there. I ain't got time to be playing. And then I start thinking, I said, damn, last time they called me like this, man, my mama had died. I painted a picture about that as well. And then I happen to look up and I see one of the people out of my unit, Cricket. And Cricket was walking across the yard. And I said, oh man, one of my kids might be hurt. And I started headed that way. I had no idea when I got in, and I really thought something had happened to somebody in my family, because when I walked the hallways, when you move, not on a move. When you move, in prison you have moves. You stay in your locked in area until the move, they unlock the doors, you can move all around, they lock you all back down in that area. Well, when I'm moving in between that move, ain't nobody in the hallway. But as we walking through the hallway, all the police is looking at me with this strange look. It's like the whole institution knew except me. And maybe it's because they called my name so many times and I just ignored it. But I walked in there and I walked into the unit and everybody was hanging over the till looking. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, man, my mama done died, and one of my kids done died. And I had to go into the office. I said, who in there, man? He said, man, I don't know why. There's a lot of suits, everybody, all the suits is in there. It's like the AWs and, I go up and then they tell me to go home. So that was that. I still didn't, and it still didn't dawn on me. After I left, I said, I'm good. How you feel? I'm good. Y'all done, that's it? You don't understand? You free, man. Look, man. I done filed so many motions. I done filed so many motions in court, and the motion said I was supposed to be free, and that shit turned out to be a lie.
Right. So you thought they was playing around.
Well,
why you gonna play with my mind?
Free don't mean you can say it. Whatever you say, it don't mean nothing because I'm still here.
Right. Right.
I find most people like, man, you gonna win this. I go pack my bags, man. You know how many times I did that shit? I did that shit over and over and over again, man. I actually kept my bags packed for 20 years.
Wow.
For 20 years, I always felt like I'm finna go home the next day. I'm finna go home. And then after there's so many not going, it just don't phase you. You just do the much you can do in the day, and when you run out of energy, lay your ass down and go to sleep. Wake up and start over again. So, it still took about a couple of weeks, a month or so. I still was interested in teaching my class and not letting disappoint the people and keeping my word on everything I had said I was going to do inside of my little society, my world. And I went on with that, but everybody kept reminding me, man, look, man, you going on. But it didn't seem like that until the door opened. We're really they called me and I had to start signing a lot of papers that I had never signed before. And like where you gonna stay and what you gonna do, and now starting kind of down on me a little bit, so yeah, that was a hell of an experience, man.
So your story is intense. You make it to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. You learn various crafts in high school. Mm-hmm. By the time you graduate high school, you're a master with iron.
Yeah, pretty much.
A few years later, you're working with the county of Los Angeles.
Yes.
You're employing everybody.
Yeah.
So you're a leader. They take your dream away from you, they think. Mm-hmm. They put you in a box like a rat. Mm-hmm. You take all of that negative energy they tried to give you, and you turned it into some of the most beautiful pieces of artwork ever made, with messages that are so intense and deep, you don't have to think. It makes you want to react. So now you're free. Mm-hmm. Now, when you first got out, people were like, look, Mr. Washington, I need to buy your art. Sell it to me. Now what happened when you got out, and what did you tell the people?
When I first got out, a lot of people didn't know that I was an artist. Some did. A new group of people did. Mm-hmm. The old people thought, I'm glad you home, baby, and they had these bags and boxes and oatmeal cans full of money. Baby, I've been waiting on you to come. I knew you was gonna come back. I need a driveway. Can you put a fence around my house and put me some of them bars up? Man, I don't do that no more. I can't do it. But I know you know how to do it. You just tell the other people what to do. So I don't know, So really when I came home, majority of the people that I ran into, they all wanted me to continue with what I had done for decades.
What they had known what they was famous for.
Yeah, what they knew me for. They know that if they needed a room added on or whatever, and they had intensity, it made me teary-eyed like it do now. I can feel the tears in my eyes now because I can see the people's faces that they had saved money for 20 years. For 21 years, they had saved my money. Wow. They had saved money that they owed me from the jobs that I did 20-something years ago. Your money is still your money. That was like touching. Yeah, that's that was what it was like coming home, and then we end up having we did have an art show. How did we get to that art show? I have to really think. I don't know how I ended up in the art gallery. I ended up in the art gallery, and we did a show on Melrose, and people were very interested in purchasing the work.
Wow.
Oh man, it's a lot happened. I'm sitting there thinking I hadn't even thought about it. The 2.5 years went by so fast because we actually had. I think one of the things that happened was when I got out, while I was in prison, I gave the county of Santa Barbara about $3 million worth of work in the form of murals, big murals, for the military. These military pieces, and one of them called Home Saul had had a public outcry because of the war. Everybody who died in the war, I gave each person that died in the war a tombstone inside of a picture with all their history on it.
Wow.
And that mural caused one of the soldiers to have a breakdown. He broke down into tears. I didn't know that he had came home to bury his friend that he went to junior high, elementary, junior high school. They went buddy in the war. And then they got split up, and one went to Afghanistan and the other one went to Iraq. And then the buddy got hit with the mine and blew it up. And then he came home to bury him and had just buried him 2 days ago. Had no idea that I'd already enshrined him into one of my art pieces. And so the military came in and you know, they come in on tour through the prison to see, and they always bring him back. So this is Mr. Washington, he's the institutional artist, and you know, he's got this piece going for with military. And everybody like, wow, this is really nice. And now they start reading it, and then the dude just get the, you know, everybody grab him, and he just start bawling.
Whoa.
But then he can't tell him what's wrong. He crying so hard he can't tell him what's wrong. So now the medics, they hit the deuces. Now the police is running down the hallway, and medical is coming. They clean everybody back, and now they have to report that to the general at the Air Force base down there. That was Air Force base. And
the painting was so cold, you touched his soul and his heart.
Yeah. And so then the military started coming through. And eventually, then I didn't get a chance to finish my painting because of all of that. They really wanted to get it out and get it on the street. And once they got it out there, the public swarmed it like they did Nipsey, you know, and with the candles and the shrines with teddy bears and so forth on. And then the vandalism came. They destroyed it. They didn't like Bush. They didn't like the war. And they got destroyed. They turned Bush into Hitler. And then they took that part down, brought it back. I fixed it, put it back. They turned him into Bin Laden like 3 times. And then finally, they killed Bin Laden. And then they threw acid on Bush's face. And it just ate his face down to the wood. They brought it back out, plastered it, filled it in, and repainted a new face on there and sent it back out. And that was my last time seeing it. You know, in fact, I talked to him today. I called the prison today and talked to the supervisor of education and the Lawn Park Mural Society, trying to locate it. I want to use it in the installation at a museum coming up. But yeah, my paintings have impact. They have emotional impact. So,
you know, I know a lot of people would probably glance over, but what you said was the government, the system, locked me down, took me away for decades. I was released. I was wrongfully
convicted. Yeah.
When you get out, you donate $3 million worth of your time and artwork back to the same organization, government, military. That takes a lot of heart. I mean, you know,
I did it not when I got out. I did it while I was in.
You did it while he was in there?
Yeah. And when I got out, the mayor, what happened, I was trying to get to this point. Sometimes I get too far going into stories, but what happened was this, is that I donated the work to the public, and it had the public outcry and everything. And then I continued to create more and more and more pieces over the years. And I would paint these big pieces because they were like, whoever the guy is in there, you know, and they wouldn't tell them who I was. They wouldn't give them my name because the warden came and talked to me, Miss Sanders, Warden Sanders. She said, you know, we respect and appreciate what you're doing and what you do for the community. We just don't want all them people down here or to start writing letters into the prison with your name on it and all of that. You know, so
yeah, because you wouldn't be able to write them back anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, if it come in the mail, I could, because they had a return address, I would be able to. But then, if they knew who I was, they probably would be flooding the prison with letters, with gifts, probably, you know, donations and all type of stuff, right? So that for that reason, they didn't expose who I was.
Oh, okay.
And so what I was able to do was to have my supervisor to speak in my behalf, because they had the public thing, you know, with the news people and everybody all out, and he spoke in my behalf without saying my name. But they said if he ever get out of prison, then we're gonna give him a ceremony, and they did.
Oh wow! Tell me about the ceremony.
The mayor came out, You actually could look at the ceremony online. You can go to artbywash.com and go to news and events, and you can pull it up, and it covers. I'm talking with the people, with the mayor. I'm talking with the parents of the dead soldiers. You know, everybody came out to show. They wanted to see who the person was. And that was kind of one of the catalysts that set the thing off to lead to the next show. That's what we was doing.
Right.
See, I came home, and then after I came to LA, then I had to go back, and they did the ceremony, and I was introduced, you know, like you said, the keys to the city or whatever. Gained a lot of Republican support because they mostly Republicans in Santa Barbara. I had crossed those lines the same way we crossed the lines of the Crips and the Bloods. It's just, it only can be a line if you make it be a line.
Right.
I never see a line. These are just human beings. You know, they deserve to be recognized. They sacrifice their life. I can't be there to protect my family, right? But these people is out there trying to protect them.
Right.
So I paid homage to that, you know. And they recognized, and they had the ceremony, and we had a real good time. Nice dinner, 5-star everything, catered in. I have actually put on an art show there as well. Then that artwork that I gave to them got the building that is put in historic protection from the state of California for lifetime. Then it turned around, and then it got national protection from the Obama administration for lifetime. The letter came back saying that, first of all, Santa Barbara tried to take the art from Lompoc to the Santa Barbara Veterans Building. And then they was like, no, I designed it for that building. They took pictures of the building, brought me pictures. I looked at it and said, okay, this is what we're going to do, me and Mr. Russell. So it was specific for that building. And they fought it and won that it has to stay in that building. And then they got historic protection for the state first. And so that means it goes into the California history law. And the pictures and all that, and my pictures of my family. See, when I wasn't there, my family represented me as well. They showed up, and they all in the newspapers, all my kids and grandkids, without me. But yeah, I got historic protection for life from the state of California, and historic protection for life of my artwork inside with the Obama administration nationally. I'm in the history book for the state of California. My artwork, myself, and my children and grandchildren. I'm in the school college book. They printed my artwork inside of the college books, so that people that's going learning art of this era, I'm in there like we used to see George Washington and Picasso and all them.
Wow.
Now I'm in.
So you're a national treasure.
Look like it's growing to be that. It's going to be like, I mean, strange things come out the Twilight Zone. You know?
Now you were telling people Art by Wash.
Art by Wash.
Now, people have been trying to buy your artwork for years, but to no avail. When are you going to start? Well, or are you ever going to sell your art?
We are going to sell art. After we did the thing in Lompoc and we did the art show in Melrose, I did a public announcement that I was going to wait 3 years before I sold any art, because I became an artist. I'm a self-taught artist. I didn't study art. I didn't study art history. I didn't study art marketing. I just know how to do what I do, and I'm a storyteller with that brush. So I thought that it would be more wise, to exercise patience, to learn the industry in which I have to come and work in. I have to live the rest of my life out as an artist, so I need to understand the industry and the value of what it is that I have.
Right.
So during that time, so that meant that I was in 2016, September 22nd, I actually got out. So September the 22nd, 2019, in maybe 2 months, the artwork is going to go for sale. And I'm hoping that everybody, if this camera's watching me, that everybody who is watching this, that pay close attention to www.artbywash.com, because we are trying to make the artwork available to the world at all different levels. I'm trying to do what I did all of my life, is to support the community in which I live. So, and part of being able to support them, I have to be able to make myself available to them, to make my art affordable to them. So I've put together a package of art that goes from as little as $25 up to $5,000 for these reproduction prints. And they will be coming online within the next couple of weeks. Just keep going in, taking a look, and order. You can order and you can support what I'm continuing trying to do. I'm actually trying to do with my life, and God bless me with this second chance. I'm working for criminal justice reform. I want to change the system that innocent people don't have to spend 2 or 3 decades in prison before they can be heard, or to find a way out. You know, I had to go through a lot to create. It's like coming through a forest or something. I had to knock down a lot of trees. But now we can clearly see that there's a problem with question number 5 and number 7. And we need to get that accepting responsibility off if you're innocent. It don't need to be there. You know, accepting responsibility should be for those that are guilty. Because there's 2 things have to happen. For it to go before the president, that you have innocent people in prison and you have no way out, that's kind of really strange and foul for law. I mean, what kind of system do we really live in? You know, if you're guilty, surely you can say, okay, look, man, this was I'm sorry. You know, I did 15 years or 5 years, or I did 40 years. I'm sorry. You know, I'm ready to go.
Right.
You know,
you beat me down.
Yeah, you beat me down. I see the error of my ways and all of that. I'm remorseful. I've been rehabilitated. You know, like I have a buddy, he did 27 years for murder. And he was rehabilitated. He was a pastor now. He went in there and started preaching the gospel. Oh, they love that, you know. But what if you ain't did nothing?
Right.
What if you ain't changed? I mean, I ain't changed. When I had access to concrete and iron, I used that. When I had access to a pencil, I used that. I used a pencil and honored your fallen comrade.
Right. I mean, well.
Yeah. So then when I got the brushes, I used that. So I'm doing the same thing I always done. I make the best of every day that God blessed me with.
Yeah, that's very important.
That's what I do, you know. So you go to www.artbywash.com. You can order, help us launch this thing off. We need to try to sell. I'm only signing for art collectors. Any of you art collectors out there, I'm only signing 100 of each image.
Okay, so now watch this.
Come on.
Now people watching this, they're reading your story, they read it in the magazines. It's in the National Archives. So what people is really trying to understand is you were locked up, you got out. The work that you have done has raised money for the government, soldiers, has bettered the attitude of the troops. You have raised the morale. You have been recognized by educational institutions. You've been sought after and wasn't even known about. Now people get to see your face. They know who you are. You're free. Artbywash.com. People want to buy original paintings. They're going to throw millions of dollars at you. They want them. They want them. There's people out there who are collectors, like you know, and they don't want reproductions.
Okay.
They want original pieces. Are you ready to separate yourself for money?
The money only do what money do. Money is made to spend. You know, like James Brown said that after man made everything, he made money to buy another man. You know, so money does what money does, and I'm not crazy about money. I had a lot of that before.
I mean, with 60 employees, a business, you were also securing the neighborhood as well as uplifting the community at the same time. So we're very aware that you're knowledgeable of your skill, talent, and wit. Yeah.
So, the original pieces, I'm looking for good homes. So, in making a deal with a person or with the institution to trade my work for money, then I'm looking past that. You know, it's like you say, if you got dogs and you care about dogs, you don't want to sell a dog to a person that's gonna not take care of the dog. Not if you care about dogs. Right. You know, so the paintings go like that. Cause you got to realize when a person asks me for one of my original paintings, you're asking me for part of my life.
Yes.
You know, so if you're not going to respect my life, you know, you have to respect that art, because this is what I traded my life for.
Right, right.
You know, I could have been in there for 20 years lifting weights and I would have came out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know what I'm saying? I could have been in there playing chess with the intellect that I have, and I probably would have been a good chess player.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And be on the world champion chess board right now playing the computers or whatever. Had I been in there and studied the modern technology, right? I'd have been able to be a computer whiz. I'd probably be a programmer or something, but I didn't. I spent my time painting pictures. I traded my life day by day to create these images, to tell the story about what the real suffering was inside of the prison. Mm-hmm. I traded my life to do that, to make sure that history had these pieces. So I want to make sure that wherever they go to a good home. You know, like I expect that the one with Obama and his administration, that it should, I think the most proper fitting home for that one would be in the Obama Library, because it tells the story of his signature piece of his commutation. It don't just tell my story, it just don't tell the story of the officers and the cabinet members, and Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch, how they traded positions as Attorney General. All that's in there. You know, it's all that's in there, but it also tells the Obama legacy. I think that his museum would probably be the most fitting place for that one. You know.
Yeah, I see. Well, this is what I see. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm a street artist.
Okay.
So I'm not a connoisseur of art, but let me tell you what I do see. Mm-hmm. So when I met you, the story grabbed me. Like the world, like it grabbed the world. And I said to myself, usually they recognize artists after they've passed on.
Yeah.
Right. And I said to myself, well, that's actually true in this case, because your former person passed on.
Yeah, the contractor.
So, like a butterfly, you know, he changes, the worm change cocoon, he changes into a butterfly. So all the artwork that you did in prison, so it's like, hey, that person is dead.
Yeah, that
person did sacrifice himself so you can get this beautiful artwork that will change the world, and is changing the world now.
I like that.
That's very intense. Now that's what I got. Yeah. Because I was telling my mother, I was like, I met this brother, Mr. Washington, and she's like, what are you talking? I said, yeah, Obama, Nancy Pelosi, all these different people was on his side, made sure that what was wrong was corrected. And I said, well, and my mother's a drug counselor.
Okay.
So she said, usually a lot of people, they die to be reborn. You know, they get out of this drug life or this gang, whatever harmed them. Yeah. They realized it was bad. They left that alone and became a new individual. And I was like, Mom, it's the same story, Mr. Washington. That's why he's so famous now. He didn't have to be dead. That person died. Yeah. That person sacrificed.
Yeah, that's really, I like that metaphor, because when I have a picture that I drew the sketches of, I haven't got to the point to be able to paint it. It's called A Message from the Grave, where I had painted the grave, and I painted from the perspective I'm looking up, and I see everybody with the veils over there. They standing around looking down at me. But as it leaves the grass and comes down into the cell, you see the roots and tree roots and, you know, different stuff coming out, and then it turns into my bunk and my toilet, and I'm in there. So basically, you know, I experienced the death, you know, the death of my company, my children to grow up without a father, you know, all these was like, these are the things that died. You know, that was the death. It's being there, to be locked up in a cell with 2 life sentences, with a life sentence, and watch everything that you spent 30 or 40 years of your life building deteriorate and just perish away. The company, the employees, the childhoods, and everything. The kids are coming with, they're pregnant, now you got grandkids and all that. So you get a chance to see while you're alive what happens when you die. especially when it comes to material things.
Wow, that is deep.
See, you get a chance to for the material things. So I think that that was a hell of an experience to be alive and know exactly how long would things last in your absence. That's another reason why the money is not really that important, you know.
Right.
And I'm trying to find the right homes for the paintings. We also have for people who like to wear art. I'll show again these wash wear T-shirts, right? They actually going to come with all of the art will be on the shirts. So when you go in there and they say reading will seriously damage your English, make sure you take time when you go to www.artbywash.com, go to news and events and do a little bit of reading and then watch your life change a little bit.
Yeah, artbywash.com. So yeah, Mr. Washington, look, I thank you once again for being patient and hanging out with World Famous TV. And your story is very intense. And we're also going to have some flashes of your artwork.
Okay.
So there was some flash of the artwork that was showing while we was doing the interview.
Okay.
So the Obama piece, though, we'll put that up last.
Okay.
So on the way out in the credits for you to subscribe, you'll see the Obama piece. But is there any person you want to shout out or say anything to anybody?
I would like to do a shout out to Help Us Help Wash, the organization that supported me while I was incarcerated. I'd like to give a shout out to No More Locked Doors, which I'm a board member of that organization. We're trying to do some transitional things between Help Us Help Wash and No More Locked Doors to bring prisoners home and give them a start. You know, some of the people I trained in there, they're still in there doing their art. When they come home, I would love to have a platform to help them sell their art and make a living as an artist. I'd like to give a shout out to Weldon Angelos from the Weldon Project, the Weldon Project. He was the inmate that they gave 55 years for weed back in the day. Him and Tupac and Snoop Dogg was together. And he was only 22 years old, and you know he's a grown man now. He did a lot of time. Give a shout to him. That's my buddy, and he, like I say, Weldon helped me with the clemency, and I would not have been as versed with the clemency had not it been for him. You know, taking time out of his life, helping me back then. So I can think of a whole lot, but it just we'll be going on and on and on because no man's an island. I didn't get here, just pop up here by myself. There's a lot of people that helped along the way. Manpower, can ever, forever in a day. That's my dog, you know. Yaya, my co-defendant. You know, these people, they stood beside me and they stood with me and they did their best. And so I give homage to them all the way through this journey. Even though I don't talk to them on a day-to-day basis, they're always in my thoughts and prayer.
So is there anybody locked down that you want to say what's up to, or you want to say thanks to a guard or a warden or a nurse?
I want to say, let me holler out to Cricket. What's up, Cricket? We ain't forgot about you. Brian Brim, we ain't forgot about you either, man. You know, Reno, he done made it home. We got a guard, Mr. Gardner. You know, he's a pastor, a good spirit. I love his spirit. Your spirit still walks with me today. Thank you for your time. I give him I think we just stop it right there.
Okay, well, cool. Yeah. World Famous TV brought you Mr. Washington. Artbywash.com. Make sure you go pick up some pieces. September 2019, he might start selling some pieces.
We're going to start.
September
2019. Let's look for the launch date in September. Actually, September the 2nd is the day that I was released, and that would be the 3-year period.
Okay, well, the person I'm looking for, Jamie Foxx, Will Smith, Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Al Hyman. I can't wait to see y'all purchase some of this artwork, original pieces.
Jay-Z.
Oh, Jay-Z? Oh yeah, I forgot. Jay-Z and Beyonce. He picks art up too. Okay. So Jay-Z, they gonna get at you, Mr. Washington.
Well, no, listen. Okay, for all of y'all out there, and I believe that the name of the list. A lot of people you said I don't know because I'm not a TV watcher. Some of the names I do recognize. I didn't watch TV for 20 years while I was in prison either.
Okay. Well, all of those people have buku amounts of cash.
Okay.
And they buy artwork.
Okay.
Jay-Z explained to the world that he's bought Basquiat artwork, which is worth millions.
Yeah.
And he has other artworks from Caucasian as well as Africans.
Okay.
African Americans, Indians.
You know how to get to these people?
Yeah, they watched the program, and then I also filmed Jermaine Jackson, Dante Wilder, Sam Watson, Al Hyman. See, this is on camera, and all the rest of them. You know.
So so this is a heaven sent right here.
Oh, yes, it is. I want to thank them all.
I did portraits of T.I., Tiny, Michael Jackson. I have a lot of different people I did, but my family didn't know how to reach them. You know. So,
now it's no problem.
Yeah.
I actually get employed by these different individuals because I do.
Okay. Well, I'm open for commissions. I can tell you a story. I can tell you a story.
We got enough time? D?
Wash, he has to be in New York at 10.
Okay, we gotta get.
Okay. Well, you want to tell the story real quick?
No, we get it on another time.
Oh, no problem. Well, thank you, Mr. Washington. ArtByWash.com. Check out the artwork. Starting in September, you'll be able to pick it up. And all those big names out there. I can't wait to see an original painting over your fireplace.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.